Hello everyone, welcome to In 5 Minutes. In this video clip, we will discuss comparison between analog and digital communication systems. We will compare these two types of systems based on some important points. The very first point is the nature of the modulating signal. Now, I'm sure everyone by now knows that in the process of communication, we have something called as modulating signal, which is nothing but the information signal which needs to be transmitted from transmitter side to the receiver side. Now, when we carry out the process of modulation, we use another signal which is called carrier signal, which is used to carry this modulating signal and take it to the receiver side, especially when the nature of the communication channel is wireless. So this modulating signal or information signal in case of analog communication systems will be analog in nature. So that's how we call it analog communication. And in digital communication system, the modulating signal or the information signal that is to be transmitted will be digital in nature. So that's the major difference between analog and digital communication system. So nature of information signal changes. It is analog, that means my information signal is analog in nature in case of analog communication systems. In case of digital communication systems, my information signal is digital in nature. Now, how do we obtain digital information signal? For that, we have to carry out the process of sampling and quantization on analog information signal. So before we design and study digital communication system, it is very important that we study how analog information signal is converted to digital signal, because the data signal or the information signal in digital communication is always digital in nature. Then what happens to carrier signal? In both the communication systems, whenever we carry out the modulation, the carrier is always analog in nature. So please remember that carrier signal is always sinusoidal analog signal. It does not change. What changes is the nature of modulating signal. So that's the first point of differentiation. The next point is based on circuit complexity. We have discussed modulator, demodulator, transmitter, receiver circuits for analog communication systems like amplitude modulation, frequency modulation, etc. Now, similarly, we have various modulation techniques in digital domain also. So when it comes to comparing the circuit complexity, it is observed that the circuit complexity is bit high in case of analog communication system. That means the circuits are difficult to design in case of analog communication system, whereas in case of digital communication, the circuit complexity is low. It becomes easy to design digital circuits compared to analog circuits. Now this is again something to do with the nature of the signal that will be processed in digital communication systems. It will be digital signal which will be there in most of the part of the circuit. So it becomes very easy to process digital signal over analog signal, and hence generally digital communication systems, the circuit complexity remains low compared to analog systems. The next is power requirement. It turns out that power requirement in case of analog communication system is high. In case of digital communication, the power requirement is low. That is again because in case of digital communication system, the digital signal which is represented in the form of ones and zeros has only two different levels in its representation. Now, if you consider a simple representation of logic 1 with the help of plus 5 volts, let's say for example, and logic 0 with the help of 0 volts, in such a case, the signal transmitted for logic 0 will be 0 in case of digital communication system. So you can see the power required for the transmission of logic 0 will be very less. And even if we use different representations, if we compare the power requirements in case of digital communication system, the power requirement will be always very less compared to analog systems.